what is it you're recommending about Avaya, right?
So what happens is this: after every single system that gets installed, there's a CSAT survey sheet, at least from our end of it, that goes out to every single one of our customers. The project managers know that the system's been installed. Now they send that CSAT out, which is done by an independent company, and it goes back to that independent company with the responses that they've given. And I think that's how the promoter scores come about anyway, because it's based on the responses from that CSAT survey which goes out. And I think that's a great thing that Avaya does, is making sure that every single customer, because it directly reflects upon our certification and how we're handling that customer. So those questions on that is not only eccentric based on Avaya's points, whether they like the product or not, whether they like their distributor or not. It's also about other things that they've done. So I think the CSAT is really, really important. That's directly correlating to that promoter score that you saw. So it's not something that I think Avaya is making up. I think it's true things which are going back to them, you know, from the customer itself.
Hi, I'm Pablo from Partner Spaces. I wish to know if some of you are working also with some of Avaya competitors as Cisco or some of these guys in data or in different portfolios.
In other words, do we sell other products?
Yes. No, to sell, if you have business relations with Cisco or with some of the Avaya's competitors, how are you working with them?
Yeah, we do.
You do?
Yes.
All of them?
Else?
All of you?
I think we all have.
I think we all have a second or third product that we carry.
And it's more related with some, for example, Avaya is talking a lot about that you need, but they want that you make some cross-selling between USC and data portfolio, so they wish that you improve this kind of selling. Do you think they can have some achievement on that space?
I'm a small bar out of Southern California, and I've historically partnered with people that are non-competitive to Avaya, right? Mm-hmm. And I've very specifically done so because it's getting more and more difficult with the Ciscos of the world, the Microsofts of the world, the Avayas of the world to carry two portfolios, right? You spread yourself thin, the manufacturers don't really want it, you know, and they kind of de-incent the behavior of doing that. We continue to sell Ruckus Wireless right now. We haven't really tried the WLAN 9100, but it's looking very, very good as part of the shortest path bridging Fabric Connect. But I think everybody sitting in here probably has a different opinion on that Avaya is not all things to all people. For example, firewalls, routers, you know, VPN type of appliances. Avaya doesn't really have a solution in that space. They used to with Nortel, but they've kind of de-emphasized that in favor of some SIP, multi-purpose gateways that get connected on site. So we personally at ROI take a complementary approach, not an overlapping approach. So we don't carry two voice platforms, two data platforms, etc. I don't know what everybody else's strategy is.
Yeah, we represent a couple of different manufacturers, and for us, a lot of it is around, just like we all talked about our challenge in making the shift in our business model from a traditional premise-based voice solution to more of a cloud services model. Our customers have those same problems, and so there's a lot of legacy Nortel and Avaya and NEC, Mitel customers out there. And for us, we're all about solving problems for our customers and the services pieces that go around that. And the hardware is kind of the end to that mean, or enables that. And so that's, for us, that's why we represent multiple manufacturers, is because that allows us to better help their customers figure out how to migrate from a legacy network into the future in a way that makes the most business sense for them.
Ken Landlin, Current Analysis. Talking about the mid-market, a lot of talk this morning about mid-market. Quite frankly, most of these events we go to lately on the vendor side, they really focus, there's a trend to focus on the mid-market. So you guys that sell into that mid-market, do you really perceive a high growth area in the next 3 or 5 years? Or are these vendors trying to push their products in search of a new growth market? What's going on? What's causing that trend?
Well, I mean, I can tell you from what I see, I mean, we're in the market, that's the only market we're in, so
I mean, we were, just from year to year, I mean, I think we were probably doing, you know, close to 25 IP offices a month last year. We're probably doing 35 to 40 now. So, you know, and this year we're doing that with more applications, you know, so we're, all these things that they're talking about, the video and the call center and the networking, like, we're just seeing more of that activity within that customer. I mean, I think it's out there, you know, for sure. I think it's just about numbers and, you know, reaching out and getting as many opportunities as you can out there and getting our name out there. And we replace a lot of non-Avaya, so that's the other thing is I'm in that particular market. I'm seeing just a plethora of different manufacturers gear there, and it's nice to see. Now I'm not up against all these guys. Legacy Avaya, yeah.
The only thing that I'd add to that is you know, what is the mid-market, right? So for us, we're a lot like Dave. We were selling in that, you know, 10 to 50 space. That was our sweet spot. And then what they've done to IP Office, what they've done to the field teams, what they've done to the channel teams to enable us to really feel confident that they're investing there, I think is the biggest change. So the business is there to be had, and Avaya's made the investment. So the risk that it's less risky for us to invest in that market space versus some of the other spaces that we play. And in the customer base, when we're approaching them with a full stack story, we're really adopting it. I mean, they don't all buy, obviously, but they are believing that there's a holistic story to be told with the Avaya brand, which is encouraging.
Also, the missing piece just recently, right, in the last year or so, was the contact center portion of it. Because traditionally on the IP office, you really did not have a robust contact center product. So with the introduction of ACCS and IPOCC, that made a whole nother a factor in what was being sold to the customers now, where the customers felt much more comfortable in getting a product which was as robust as an enterprise-based product. So I think that goes a long way in itself.
If I can add for a second, as a Canadian partner, I have to tell you, it's really refreshing to see this focus. I've been doing this for a long time, and we went through years of the focus on large enterprise solution direction, and we would wait for a year for new releases to come out because they didn't come out in the same cadence that they do now, and there it is. They've just gone from 35,000 to 50,000 agents in a contact center. In Canada, there are none of those. So this focus on this in this space is enormous for us in our market. So it's quite refreshing to see it.
Yeah, from a distribution standpoint, I get to see everybody's buys as they come in, and you really do see IP Office. It's growing. You see the phone count or the endpoint count really growing up to 100, 200, 300. And a lot of times, I'd say a few years ago, you'd only see that with the communication manager or a platform out there. But we're seeing a lot more IP Office out there. The deal constructs are a lot bigger. The selling of the stack of ICE incenting the teams out there to sell the stacks, we see a lot more of that going on. So just to confirm what all these gentlemen are saying, it's definitely coming up.
So there's been a product void for a number of years. It's finally being filled.
When 2 years ago, we couldn't sell anything bigger than 350 users.
There you go.
Right? I mean, last year alone, we sold, 5, 6, 7,000 user plus IP offices, right? And so, I mean, just the opportunity is completely different.
Yeah, I think the driver is virtualization, right? IP Office can now be virtualized. That's a big trigger. The other thing is by integrating them more as a solution as opposed to point products, I think customers are starting to see it's easier to manage, easier to administer. From a total cost of ownership perspective, it's more compelling. And frankly, I think there's been pent-up demand in the mid-market. A lot of them bought around Y2K, and they tend to really lay on those assets until they're just dead, unless they can be shown a value proposition. And I think now that we're coming out of a softer economy, they're willing to invest, and they're actually willing to take that jump because they see incremental change in the solution set. It's not just voice anymore. It really is mobility, it's collaboration, it's contact center, and now video. So IP Office has really grown up quite a bit. And to echo the other sentiments, I mean, 2,500 users, 150 locations now. You'd be hard pressed to find, a ton of those, customers that traditionally, from an IP Office perspective, were even considered, right? So it's really given us the headroom to really feel confident with the product and the scale.
I think also compensation drives behavior because now Avaya is putting a CAM in place for that mid-market. and they weren't paying the guys, to focus on that piece of the business before. It was mainly just enterprise. So now they've changed that scope. They've invested in 200 cams. The cams are now compensated on that part of the business, and we're seeing a lot more attention to that. Therefore, we're having even more success.
Has anyone that wants to ask a question not had a chance yet? Okay. Then, Andre, did you have a question? Oh, sorry. So then we'll go back around. Start with you, Paul, then Blair, then rotate.
Great, thanks. I think, and hopefully I'll quote this right because I tweeted about it, so I hope it's right. Pierre said this morning that any partner that doesn't have 30% of its business in cloud may not be here next year. Where are all you guys in terms of cloud as a ratio of your total business? Can we just kind of just yell it out?
Less than.
Less than 30%, yes.
Definitely.
Satisfy everybody, because I would have thought that everybody would be in that boat.
Yes.
Okay.
I think the point he was trying to make is that it is absolutely top of mind for most of the customers that we deal with, and we have to have some kind of a solution, whether you build it or buy it. You're going to have to be able to speak to that delivery mechanism and that OpEx versus CapEx model to the customer, or else you could be taken out very early in that process. So from our perspective, we've sold private cloud with Avaya virtual environment, but now we're actually launching our own public cloud type service. So if you look 12 months from now, we'll probably have 20% of our revenue starting to come from the cloud. We see it growing very rapidly.
I think it's really important when you talk about cloud. A lot of confusion over the word cloud, but the private cloud is, in my view, the biggest driver right now in the mid-market. And I agree that you have to shift your business to that percentage of it coming from a private cloud, because the ROI for our customers to move to the private cloud model is so strong that it's happening very rapidly. I haven't seen this kind of shift in the market since the shift from traditional phone systems to IP. And so that doesn't mean that we all have to become service providers and host an application. That means we have to help our customers. They're getting rid of their phone systems, they're getting rid of their phone lines. There's no more networking of multiple phone systems. It's all moving into a centralized kind of architecture. In a lot of cases, in the mid-market, that's a private cloud model.
I think just to pile on, it kind of depends on your market as well. I know from our perspective, it really depends on the robustness of the actual carriers that are in the regions that we serve. So in larger centers, it works quite well, and there's a lot of knowledge about it amongst customers, more than I've ever seen. That being said, there's still a lot of mistrust about it, and because of some negative experiences that people have maybe experienced with a branch office that might be in a smaller town, where you have voice quality issues and so on. You're trying to run voice over a DSL internet connection and things like that, which has soured a lot of people on hosted VoIP services in the maritime provinces that we operate in. As a result, people have really embraced IP Office as a hybrid solution that gives them the best of the traditional, but the feature sets they're looking for in a cloud-based service. And they're very comfortable with it. And the longevity of the system, the reliability, has helped us to sell more. So I wouldn't say it's a crazy pent-up demand right now, but it's definitely coming down the pipe more and more. The hosted providers in our region are struggling. There's no question whatsoever. They're having a very difficult time with it, but a lot of that has to do with the base infrastructure they're operating on. And the reluctance of the telcos to give up that wholesale business, some of them are actually pushing back against these sorts of carrier partners, seeing them as competitors directly to their base. So it's an interesting thing in our part of the world.
If I can add to that, I mean, let's be clear. Prem is not disappearing completely. It's not a race to zero on that side, but hosted is coming, and it's coming hard. One of the things that we've similarly noticed is we still displace hosted solutions occasionally with premise-based solutions. We win those. And a lot of that has to do with the very early adopters. Our market in Canada is typically 12 to 18 months lagging behind the US market space as far as acceptance. So the addressable market isn't quite the same ratio yet, but it's coming. But the very early adopters, what we've seen is many of those fail because, quite frankly, because they had a technology solution and not a business. They built a box, and that was a really cool one. And they thought they could go to market with that, and they were hearing that this is the wave of the future, but they couldn't execute the business aspects of doing this. You have to be able to build it, you have to be able to market it, you have to be able to sell it and understand your value proposition. You go on and on and on, but it's the business wrap around it that's really important. And full credit to Avaya, because they seem to have recognized that the efforts they're making in their channel program and the communications that they're conducting with their partners, it's more than just the simple technology. They are focused as well on the business that's required to be successful in the space. That's also new, and I think it's a really good development.
Blair?
So I think we all got the message that mid-market is hot and IP Office is really letting you do a great job. Is anyone still selling Aura? Session Manager? I think I heard the word 3 times today.
So, ROI Networks, we started the business with absolutely no interest on the small mid-size. We went after the enterprise class business, and we sold a lot of Aura. We have now sold a lot more IP Office, but not at the expense of the Aura business. So we are doing very, very well with our Aura business right now, and most of the momentum over the last 12 to 18 months has been moving customers out of the physical appliance or physical server business, where one application rides on a server, moving them into a VMware environment. And because we're VMware certified and we also have tremendous Aura experience, we're having a tremendous amount of success in that space. The hard thing is Avaya traditionally had barriers between the IP Office and the Aura product, and that's why it would never scale beyond 300 users, because quite frankly, the Aura product house, we're threatened by loss of revenue, right? Because it's a revenue shift, not necessarily a gain unless there's incremental growth in that market. But I think it's safe to say that Avaya is investing heavily in session manager, system manager, control center manager, things of that nature, but they're also investing now heavily in IP Office. So it's not this or this, it's both. And as a business partner, we can make the decision, do we carry the whole portfolio, or do we lead and specialize in one over the other? I know Ian sitting to my right does an extremely good job in that mid-market, and I think has tremendous opportunity there, where we kind of grew up on the Aura side, they grew up on the IP Office side. Depending, as of our, what model you want to focus on, there's profitability and there's market to be had.
Andre?
Andre Kindness with Force Research. Taking care of this guy, moving the packets. So I focus in on the networking part of it. I'm curious around what seems to be sticking with your customers, resonating from is it the UC combination of networking that you leverage, or is it what JT was presenting this morning, this end-to-end fabric? I mean, I don't know too many organizations are changing out their data center and their edge. I mean, is that really resonating? Do you believe that Avaya needs a data center product, or does the Ethernet switches with the UC voice do a better combination?
That's a great question. Avaya needs to be in the data center. There's absolutely no question about it. Whether it's from a service provider or from an end user perspective, not playing in there has really been hurting them. From a standpoint of what really has legs with our customers, the next generation Ethernet, the single protocol, edge-only provisioning, security with the stealth networking. When customers are looking to make next generation core upgrade decisions, they have to make a decision, do I want to go down this fabric with kind of a standards-based approach, or do I want to continue down this proprietary path? And I think we're finally starting to see more and more interest on the end user customer part to make more objective decisions, not just go down the C route or go down their incumbent route. They're looking at this thing like, hey, this is a once in 10, 15-year upgrade decision. I need to make sure I do it right. And many of them have problems of lack of staff, lack of network agility, and being able to really do these things cost effectively. And the network infrastructure is becoming an impediment. So the game here is to change it and make sure they know Avaya actually has a networking portfolio. I think that's the biggest challenge in the market, is just get that word out so customers are aware of the unique value associated with that.
Would the rest of the panels agree with that, David?
Absolutely, I would. And important in JT's message was, as he's reaching out to the channel, customers, they don't know what they don't know. And that was a very important part of his message, and why he was engaged so much the partners in the room.
As a follow-up on that directly, this is the other thing I was interested in too. It's well and good to call it the sort of open standards approach, but in point of fact, it's still rip and replace all of your old with their new to get all the benefits of that edge-to-edge fabric that he's talking about.
Yeah.
Does that become a problem for the people you're trying to sell on an edge-to-edge non-proprietary solution?
Sometimes. You know, it depends how deep are the pain points. You can look at it as an obstacle, as a barrier to entry, or you can look at it as an opportunity because I like to sell stuff. So there's an upside to this.
How many customers are going to rip their whole network out and put in a brand new fabric? I see it as more of an evolutionary process, right? You start in the core and then you work out towards the edge. I don't see customers starting at the edge and then working back into the core, right? So you really have to pick and choose the entry and make sure you have the right people in that business engaged, not just the advocates of keeping things complicated for their own job security, but the ones that really care about the value of technology and what they're getting for their correlated investment. Those are the ones that will give you an ear, and those are the ones that will sponsor you. We just did a briefing with a very large customer headquartered in Southern California that's a big Cisco shop, and their two highest level IT executives were not aware that Avaya had a networking portfolio. So as I mentioned earlier, that's, I think, their biggest challenge.
So I was curious, I mean, I've heard 90% of what I'm hearing today, not from you guys, but like the presentation about UC and everything, so I don't hear that much. I mean, are you guys the same feeling from Avaya that the networking is not a priority or doesn't get talked about that much, or it's not in marketing materials?
I think it's becoming they're looking at it as if it's a priority now. I think they're going after that market. The only thing that they're not doing, I think, from a marketing perspective is getting the word out that we do make these great products that are going to give you all those things that you don't have today. And I think that is what needs to be addressed, is the marketing portion of this. You know, do an ad campaign or do some kind of a campaign which actually puts you out there with that product line.
And for us, we just want to plant the Trojan horse, right? So however we can get into the network, we want to get into the network, whether it's through an SBC or wireless or edge, whatever, you know, just power for IP phones. You just want to get in there, and then the conversation starts to expand once you build a relationship with the customer, especially if it's not a base customer and it's net new. You just want to find a way to plant the seed, and then typically we can follow up and start educating them from there. I mean, we're not ripping and replacing many networks of any, you know. It's the second, the third motion that are actually the big ticket items, right? We've dropped a switch in here, we've thrown in a SIP gateway there, and then you start to kind of broker those conversations, right?
I'd like Rowan to see there's a right on you guys, so.
But just to dispel the myth, Avaya talks networking with every single customer meeting that we have, and it is extremely top of mind with every one of their people out in the field. So they're also now offering additional deal incentives, right? So if you sell UC, you may not see that much of a benefit, but if you sell networking with the UC, you step up a lot. And then if you add contact center, you get another tier of discounting, right? So they're really, I think, in this point, we have two headcount in our region that help us in the mid-market and one in the enterprise that are very good at articulating this value proposition, and it's starting to get legs. It's going to take a while, though.
So I think we have time for one more question, but I did want to mention tomorrow during the keynote, our CMO, Andy Cunningham, is going to talk about marketing. You're going to hear a whole different message and get a whole different vibe from her about what we're doing in marketing. Rohit?
So, since you've given me the honor of the last question, I'll make it a hard one. If you have one suggestion for something to change, for Avaya to change something or improve something, what would that be? One.
Why don't we start?
Do you want to let them each say one word?
Yeah.
Go down the line?
One word?
Oh, one sentence, Matt.
I don't know if I can make it one word, but maybe like two or three. I think simplification, marketing, and there's good movement in that direction, but taking all this complex stuff and making it easy for customers to understand how it benefits them it still needs to evolve.
So simplicity for sure, but it would be nice if they would make a line of routers and those sorts of products that support some of the systems that we put in for remote service PCs and things like that. Typically we have to go to a Cisco product or something like that or fill that gap. So I think there's still products that could complement the systems they sell that could be made.
Avaya's made great strides in the last year or two, but simplifying their business process, it's still a theme breaking down the silos between the different parts of the business would be really beneficial for all of us out in the channel, and continuing to work on improving the tools and process in the background. It's still a pain point, as much as they have made some progress though.
Yeah, follow the same theme there. It's all about improving their business processes, dealing with them, velocity, ability to cope quicker to end user customers. Their partnership with distribution and the channel has come a long way. It's really showing this year. But again, it's just that business process piece. If they keep working down to get that fixed, I think you'll see a table of a lot happier people around that piece.
For me, I think it's integration at the end user level to make their back-end applications more transparent. Because whether you're an IP Office customer or you're an Aura customer, at the end of the day, I still have similar needs. And they're now starting to integrate all the point products together into a true end-to-end solution with simplification in mind. So I think they need to continue to do more of that. I think they're working better across the company under this team engagement, customer engagement methodology. And I think you'll see massive innovation done in the next 12 months. So I'm excited to see that unification of the user experience continuing to get better.
Yeah, backfill headcount before they migrate personnel across departments, across roles, whatever the case may be. I mean, at the beginning of the year, it can take sometimes 4 to 6 months before you have the team that you need to go out there and execute on the strategy. So sometimes they expect the results, but the team isn't fully kind of vetted and matured yet. So I'd say fill the headcount before they roll out the strategy.
I actually agree with you, and also we've seen that it's getting to become a better process on that end of it with the headcount. But when you get used to a CAM or a TAM who now got used to you for 9 months, 10 months, 11 months, then all of a sudden that person disappears, and now you've got a whole new team which is coming about. You're dealing with that team. They're getting better at fixing that. Matter of fact, I've spoken to a couple of people about that. Now that they're also adding additional personnel to pay attention, especially to us, to the mid-market guys, I think that is a big factor. So yeah, backfilling the headcount is a big one for us also.
I think it'll be important for me to see the marketing piece. I want to see what they mean and actually create a presence in the market. So that presentation, I'll be excited to see that piece.
The consistent leadership as far as the support and the marketing piece is important.
Yeah, my number one is the marketing. I mean, I know Avaya, I've been doing Avaya for 18 years, and you know, if I'm struggling to picture a commercial or something in a newspaper or a magazine, if I'm struggling to find that, I can only imagine what our potential clients are doing. So that's a big thing for me. I think the maturing process of the TAMs and the CAMs within our territories, to continue that process along will be helpful.